If you're struggling to improve in Fortnite Zero Build, whether you are new to the game or not, this video is for you. I'm gonna be going over 5 different tips to improve for beginners in Zero Build mode. Without further ado, let's get started. So starting off with tip number 1, and probably the most important one of them all, you need to start using natural cover more. What I mean by using natural cover is the environment on the map, whether it's buildings, trees, rocks, bushes, or even cars. When less of your character's body is exposed, you are in fact harder to land shots on. And this may sound obvious for some people, but I've noticed that a lot of players who are new to Zero Build tend to pick bad fights out in the open, especially the ones that are coming from build mode. They're just charging at their enemies with no real game plan. When you're using natural cover like a rock or a tree, not only are you able to take advantage of the third-person view to still see your opponent while you're behind the cover, but you're also able to take a right-hand peek to take a shot. This is a very powerful skill to understand because it is the foundation of becoming a better player. Playing in this safe manner allows you to slow down the fight and get some opening damage off on your opponent while also taking less damage than you would normally. And this brings me into my next tip, and that is to know when to all in your enemy. What I mean by this is to not get overly aggressive until you know that the fight is in your favor. This is why you combine the first tip with this one and use cover to get pre-fight damage off on your opponent from distance with either a sniper or AR, and then get aggressive once they're low. You never want to give your enemy a chance to heal up after you've done a good amount of damage to them. The goal is to keep pressure on your opponent, forcing them to make a bad play that you can capitalize on. A good example of this being done correctly is taking the visual information such as the enemy's shield breaking or noticing that the damage numbers you're seeing are white, yellow instead of blue, and then pushing them to finish them off with a close range weapon like your shotgun. Taking a 50-50 frenzy auto shotgun fight isn't the best play you can do because 1, you don't know if your opponent is full on shield plus health. 2, you have to rely more on your aim and movement mechanics, and 3, you potentially have to waste more heals at the end of the fight. The next tip is to know your loadout. It is very important to take the most optimal loadout during each game if possible. This means you have to prioritize picking up the Frenzy Auto Shotgun, an AR of choice, the Sniper, a set of mobility, which means the Grapple Blade or Shockwaves, and a set of heals. Getting familiar with this type of loadout can help you win games and become a better player. I can't stress enough how important it is to carry mobility in Zero Build because not only can it help you push enemies quicker that are low, but also help you reposition and reset fights when you're in trouble. Now obviously there will be games where you won't be able to get the most ideal loadout of your choice, but that is why knowing how different each weapon and item performs is crucial. With that in mind, the next tip correlates with your loadout, and that is knowing your drop. This at the end of the day requires you to get really familiar with the Chapter 5 map and know where things like chests, mending machines, NPCs, and vaults spawn. There are certain spots on the map that can guarantee you a sniper or higher rarity weapon in general. It's very important to know where you can obtain heals, mobility, and even mythic rarity weapons on the map. There are 5 different POIs that contain a boss that drops a mythic weapon and a medallion that opens a vault. Not to mention the NPCs that spawn on the map sell different valuable items for gold. Just by knowing this information, you can strategize your drop around that. And knowing where your enemies will rotate from at your starting drop location can give you a large advantage in your games and ultimately help you win. And last but not least, my final tip is to practice your movement. The thing that sets apart an average player from a great player in Zero Build is their movement. When you watch big streamers like Zemi, Replays, or Ninja, they're rarely sitting still during a fight. They are taking advantage of certain mechanics like sprinting, sliding, and mantling to optimize their gameplay and survive as long as possible. That's why standing still and aiming down the sight isn't always the best option during these close quarter engagements, because the better player will always use their movement capability to get hit less. Not only that, but you risk exposing yourself to enemies using a sniper. They will line up a headshot on you much easier when you're constantly standing still. And I know that practicing your movement inside of BR can be quite difficult sometimes. That's why I recommend using creative maps like Semi Zero Build PvP or even Anvil Square Deathmatch. The codes for the maps will be listed on the screen just in case you guys wanted to check them out. And those are my 5 tips for beginners in Zero Build. If you found this video useful, be sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel, or even leave a comment on your recent success from implementing these tips. I try to respond to all my comments and I definitely would love to hear about it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.